Alleluia, alleluia, Christ is risen. Good morning, dear people of St. Paul's. Wishing you and your loved ones a happy and blessed Easter. May Christ's light shine brightly in our lives, in our homes, in our places of work, and may we work together so that Christ's light may shine brightly in our communities, our society, and our country.
Thank you, Alison. What does the resurrection mean to us in a time of a pandemic? It's been quite a year since last Easter. The resurrection stories are different in each of the Gospels, but they share some common elements. Women are the first witnesses to the resurrection. It seemed the women travelled with Jesus. They certainly supported him, and perhaps they ministered to women along the way. Like other of his followers, they certainly would have been devastated at his death. Mark's story is the first account of the resurrection. It's the earliest one. Mary Magdalene at dawn, along with Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Salome, go to the tomb to anoint the body of Jesus for burial, a familiar Jewish custom. Also an act of love for them. On the way, they wondered how they would move the stone away. Why do we always call it a stone when it's probably more like a large rock that's difficult to move? Anyway, imagine their surprise when they get there that not only has this stone or rock been moved away, but the tomb is empty. And an angelic-like person there says that Jesus has risen and is no longer there. Imagine how shocked they were to hear and to experience this. Certainly not at all what they were expecting. So here's another common element of the resurrection stories, that of fear. And the familiar or frequent response to that is, do not be afraid. Don't let these extraordinary events alarm you. Go and tell. That's also characteristics of these resurrection stories. And today the three women are told to go and tell the disciples, including Peter, who, as we know, had denied Jesus, and that Jesus will go ahead of them and meet them in Galilee as he had told them. Interesting how people often forgot what Jesus had told would happen. And so the news certainly got out, and we are evidence of that, celebrating Easter here today. O Christ o vocile, impella, indeed, Christ is risen. And we too are witnesses to Jesus' resurrection. And through what we say and what we do, we keep the story alive. The COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected the whole world, has certainly impacted on each of us. With the trauma of separation and isolation, sickness and death, we too have become fearful. Like the woman at the tomb today, we are left with a sense of terror and amazement. So what does the resurrection mean in this context? With the resurrection, we don't forget the cross, with the violence, the agony, and the pain that Jesus suffered. Neither does the resurrection lead us to forget nor deny our own grief and fear. Rather, I believe the resurrection can help us in facing all we are experiencing now. The resurrection gives us power to act courageously and with compassion, to do something about the struggles we and others are facing, and the world groaning under this pandemic. The resurrection did not end suffering, but it enables us to live more fully, to deal with our own loss and hurt and the societal injustice that has become so apparent at this time over this past year. The resurrection gives us hope to know that God is the God of life, who can bring new life out of suffering and death, who can roll away the stone of despair that we are facing, a God who loves and cares for us in the world. Let us share in the resurrection. Let us participate actively in it. Let us celebrate and make real the resurrection today by engaging in the ministry that Jesus did, binding up the broken-hearted, siding with and advocating for those who have been wronged in our society and left behind in the pandemic, breaking down the barriers that separate people from one another, and driving away the demons that destroy life and livelihoods and families, and doing all we can do to end the pandemic and the destruction it is causing. On a personal note, together with Alison, I begin sabbatical leave tomorrow and will return on the 1st of July. I'm grateful to the parish executive for their support and the Vicar General of the Diocese for supporting this leave, for taking time out to reflect, to pray, to rest, to read, to write, to prepare myself for ongoing ministry. During this time, Reverend Sabelo will be deacon in charge. He'll be supported by the wardens. Visiting clergy will assist with services, including Reverend Martin Brouwer, and I thank them. I want to end with some words from St. Paul's writings, Ephesians chapter 4, 1 to 5. As I appeal to you, members of the parish during this time, lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every opportunity to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope of your calling. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. After all, this is surely a sign of the resurrection life. If you've been receiving these YouTube presentations through subscription, please note that you will now receive them from Sabelo Mtumkulu's YouTube channel. So if you wish to subscribe to that, you will continue to receive our material from St. Paul's. Happy Easter to you all.